Hello and welcome to Algebra 4.1 example and formula for slope. So here's our first example. Consider a line through the points 1, 7, and 6, 4. We're going to A, find the slope of the line, B, without graphing, verify that the point 4, 5.2 is also on that line, and C, find the coordinate of another point on the same line. Alright, so remember, when we're talking about slope, we're talking about rate of change. We're talking about how much the y's change divided by how much the x's change. Alright, so what we're going to do is let's just draw an arrow. And let's just go from this point. I'm going to go down. And how many down did I go? Well, we went 1, 2, 3. So I went down 3. So I'm going to mark that with a negative so I know which way I'm going down. And then I want to go, oops, I don't need that. I want the arrow. There we go. And I'm going to go over. Well, how many over do I have to go? Well, I will just count again. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I went to the right, 5. So my slope should be the change in y's over the change in x's. So I should get negative 3 over positive 5. Alright, so I've got negative 3/5, and I want to change that to a decimal. I get negative 0.6. So that's one way I could draw my slope triangle. But now let's try and draw my slope triangle a different way. What happens if I started at 6, 4 and went back up here? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go this way. And that means I'm going to go up 3. So I'm going to make that with a positive 3. And then I'm going to go to the left 5, I'm going to mark that with a negative 5. Alright, so if I want to do my slope that way, I would go, change in y's would be 3, change in x's is negative 5, and that gives me another negative 0.6. So notice how these two numbers are the same, so it doesn't matter which point I start at, as long as I get the same number at the end, because I go down 3, right 5 is the same as going up 3, left 5. Alright, so here's another way to look at this, is if I have the 2 points. I want to say, what's my change in y's? So my change in y's would be from 4 to 7. So I do 4 minus 7 over, and then I would do 6 to 1. So I started with the 4, so I'm going to start with the 6, right? I'm going to start with the same point, because if I don't, I might switch the positive and negative values. So we go 4 minus 7 to 6 minus 1. And if I do 4 minus 7, I end up with negative 3, and 6 minus 1 is 5. So I just subtract my y values, and I subtract my x values. Okay, so there are my x values, there are my y values. If I go around the other way and I try to do this with the green arrows, I would just switch these up. If I do 7 minus 4 divided by 1 minus 6, and 7 minus 4 is 3, and 1 minus 6 is negative 5. So it doesn't matter which one I have, or which one I start with, which point, the blue or the black, as long as I subtract them, starting with the 4 and start with the 6. End with the 7, end with the 1. If I switch those up, then my slope is going to be a little bit different. Alright, so it does matter where you start and where you stop, but it doesn't matter which one you choose as your starting value. Okay, so there is my slope of the line. That is for part A. For part B, it says verify that the point 4, 5.2 is also on that line. So what we're going to do is let's choose a point. I'm going to choose a point 1, 7. Alright, so I'm going to start with the 7, and instead of subtracting the y value of this point, I'm going to subtract the y value of my other point, 5.2. So 7 minus 5.2, and I'm going to divide that by, I started with 7, so I'm going to start with 1 minus, and I have to subtract my x value, which is 4, right? So 7 minus 5.2 is 1.8 divided by 3, and it should be a negative 3. And if I take 18 divided by 3, that would give me 6, so 1.8 divided by 3 would give me 0.6, but also have a positive divided by a negative, so that gives me a negative 0.6. So notice this number is the same as these two numbers, so that tells me the slope is the same, because my change in y's over change in x's is the same ratio as the change in y's and change in x's on my other pairs of points. So therefore, I can verify that this works because I have the same ratio. Alright, and then for part C, it says plot another point on the same line. So what I'm going to do is I could start at this point and go down 3, right 5. I would get to here. Could I start it here and go down 3, 1, 2, 3, and I can go right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, let's just count, make sure I did that correctly. I started at 6, 4, went down 1, 2, 3, and then right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it should be this point right here. Alright, so if I go down 3 from 4, so it's really kind of like saying down 3 minus 4 minus 3 is going to give me 1 for my y value, right? And I'm going to the right 5, so it's going to be 6 plus 5, because I'm going to the right 5, would be 11. So for part C, I would have 11, comma, 1. That would be another point on the same line. Could I also do the same thing? Could I go up 3 and to the left 5? If I go up 3 from 7, I end up with 10, right? That'd be my y value. And if I go to the right 5, or to the left 5, 1 minus 5 would be negative 4. So I'd have negative 4, comma 10. And there would be my another point. So it only says find 1. I could use this slope to say, use the slope, go down 3, right 5, or go up 3, left 5. Either one will work out. All right, so there is your example. Let's quickly go to the slope formula, formula for slope. The formula for the slope of the line passing through one point with coordinates x1, y1, and point 2 with coordinates x2, y2. And these just kind of show you, this one is for the x value and this one's for the y value. The 1 and the 1 just show you it's point number 1, and the 2, the subscript 2, is just for point number 2. Alright, so that formula is going to be the change in y over change in x, which is the y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Or if we wanted to switch that around, we could also just switch the values as well. We could also do y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. Alright, as long as these are the same, as the subscripts are the same, y1 and x1 are above and below each other, and y2 and x2 are above and below each other, then we're going to be okay. So it doesn't matter. Usually you'll see it like this, but if we switch them, it doesn't matter which point you choose as x1, y1, and which point you choose as x2, y2, as long as we're vertically the same subscript. Okay, here's a couple of quick things. A line that goes up from left to right has a positive slope. A line that goes down from left to right has a negative slope. Because if we go up and to the right, that's positive, and this is positive, right? And this would be negative and negative. And what's a negative divided by a negative? Well, that's a positive. Positive divided by a positive, that's also a positive. This would be a negative. Here to the right would be a positive. This one here is a positive. This one's a negative. So that the signs are different, that tells us the slope is going to be a negative. All right. So as you go to the right, it goes up. That's positive. Okay, it goes to the right, it goes down, that's negative, and this is kind of why that works. All right, and lastly, horizontal lines have a slope of 0 because they have no change in y, right? If you're just going across, I go up 0, right 5, right 10, whatever. Okay, so it's going to be 0 because we're not changing any in the y, but we're moving some in the x. All right, and lastly, to calculate the slope of a vertical line, you would have to divide by 0, which is impossible. We say that the slope of a vertical line is undefined. So I'm going up 50, up 5, up 3, but I'm going to the right 0, so I'm going to divide by 0, and I know I can't divide by 0. So if we have a vertical line, my slope is 0. All right, there we go. Just some things to remember and check back with in case you forget. And lastly, as you work on exercises, keep in mind that the slope of a line is the same as the rate of change of its equation. When a linear equation is written in intercept form, y equals a plus bx, which letter represents the slope? And of course, the slope is the coefficient, the rate of change, which is going to be b. B is the letter that represents the slope because it's the coefficient of x. All right, good luck.